I promise I'm not here to rob you, but James Caan might. And Michael Mann's incredible 1981 film, Thief. I honestly was very confused at first about what this movie was about, and then as I watched it, I began to understand this kind of nuance that it was playing in, where it was almost more about the character of James Caan's character in the film than it was about the plot. But besides all of that, I think there's something that this movie has that a lot of movies nowadays don't have, and that is a vibe, or in better words, a mood. And I think that it's something that is really, really missing from a lot of today's movies. So first, I want to talk about Thief, and then I want to talk about the importance of creating a mood in film. So let's just take a look. So first, the Thief features James Caan as like a master thief who is hired by someone to do a job for them. There's a lot more to it than a lot of like nuances, but that's the general gist of the story. The movie has a plot, it's a good plot, but the movie is more not about the plot. Like, the underlying story plot is the very interesting heist story. But the way this movie is shot and the mood that it brings is one of the more interesting things I've seen in a very, very long time. Something I wanted to bring up. This movie feels very interesting, I think partially because it was released in 1981. So it's right at the cusp of a decade that would bring a very different type of film than the ones in the 1970s. This movie is both shot and has a lot of slow moments that a lot of the movies from the 70s have. But also, this movie is scored by Tangerine Dream, it's very synth-driven, which also, like, it's an incredibly synth-based score that really, really pushes it into the new decade, because, I mean, the 80s is synth. So you're left with a very interesting dichotomy between the very slow moments of the 70s, the very character-driven, intimate moments, paired with a very fast-paced, quick, synth-driven, action-oriented movie from the 1980s. And you put that all together and it creates this mood that a lot of movies don't have. I think this movie is the perfect example of why the mood matters. And taking the time to set the mood is really important, especially if it's not part of a franchise. Most movies nowadays don't even attempt to give you a moment to understand the mood or the tone of the world of the movie, but rather they just introduce you to the characters as fast as humanly possible so that way they can get to the plot, and they don't take the time to set a mood with a clue of what the world is in the movie. Which I think if more movies actually took the time to set the mood, more individual non-franchise movies would be more successful. And that's, I think, because a lot of movies go on premise alone. And I think giving a movie a very defined mood can be one of the best ways to separate yourself from other films. Thief isn't necessarily a plot that you couldn't get somewhere else, besides James Caan's performance, of course, but the way it's directed, scored, and the cinematography of the film make this a movie you could not get today or anywhere else. So if you are making a movie, set the mood. Tell us what the mood of the world is. That alone might make it to the big leagues. Thank you all for watching. I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. You can follow us on Instagram at MediaBite Company and at MediaBite Co. It's on TikTok. Patreon for ad-free podcasts, and listen to the MediaBite Podcast Network wherever you get your podcast. I would appreciate that. Exploring Cinema / it is all things horror movies, and Diary of a Reading Filmmaker is filmmaking side of stuff. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.